Hey guys, what's up, Dax here. Welcome back to another comparison video. Today we're going to be looking at the best car in the game versus the worst car in the game and comparing them through certain parts of this Austrian track. So it's very tough to decide what the quickest car in the game is because it's very track dependent, but for this one I went from real life statistics. So Valtteri Bottas won the Austrian Grand Prix in real life, so that's why I'm going with the Mercedes as the best car here today, but definitely trying this around different tracks, the Ferrari would definitely be the better car in certain situations. And as for the worst car, as it generally has been this season, we're going to go with the Sauber. And looking at the qualifying results for the Austrian Grand Prix, the Sauber was still the worst car. So I took your advice in from the last couple of videos, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making sure we do the best lap possible that I can do. I mean, I'm not going to spend like hours and hours and hours on doing a lap, but I gave myself 10 laps to try and get the best lap time possible. And here on lap number 5 was my best lap time of this session here. So, of course, once again, it's not going to be perfect, but I think it's going to be a much better conclusion or much better analysis than the one we did last time where we only did a couple of laps on board. So, hopefully you guys are going to like this one a little bit more. Of course, leave your comments down below about which ones you want to see in the future, which comparisons you want to see. Of course, the classic cars are going to be up for much comparison and hopefully some cool races as well. If you guys want to see some particular cars racing around the track, just leave a comment down there below and I will get around to try and making videos on them. So anyway, through the last couple of corners here, around the Austrian Grand Prix track, up to the start finish line, DRS wide open, we're going to be doing a 1:07.201. So yes, not the best lap time in the world, I think 1.5 seconds or so off the pole position time in the Austrian Grand Prix. But now let's go on board with the Sauber here, and I'm not going to lie, I found this car very tricky to drive in comparison to the Mercedes, of course, which has lots of top-end speed and lots of downforce. This car really, was tough to drive. And the top right, you can see the delta. That is actually the delta in comparison to my best lap time in the Mercedes, not my best lap time in the Sauber. So you can already get a good idea about where we're losing the time here. So into the brakes here, we're nearly 7 tenths down, over 7 tenths down already. Every area of the Sauber car is just slow, and it really puts it into perspective, and I didn't really believe it at the time, but yet the Sauber really is this slow. It's so tough to see how these guys can compete at all with the midfield. They're just so far behind right now. 1.5 seconds, but halfway around this lap. And of course we should mention the Sauber is using last year's Ferrari power unit here, so it's already at a disadvantage down the straights, and just through the corners it lacks so much downforce in comparison to the Mercedes car. And I'm having to take different lines through the corners here because I'm thinking I can't take those tighter lines that I could take in the Mercedes because there's just not the downforce there to maintain that through the corners. So I'm taking different lines. I'm really struggling in this Sauber car. As you go around the last couple of corners here, it's a neat lap, but it's not the particularly quickest in the world. Up to the start finish line, DRS open once again. It's over 3 seconds slower. Now we're going to see a side-by-side comparison of these laps here, and you can really sort of illustrate where we're losing that time here. So through the last corner, you can see we're already a little bit behind with the Mercedes. Now it's going to go across the start-finish line. That's when it's going to hit the same frame. So you can see down to turn 1, we're already gaining time on the Sauber there. Even though we have a slight locker into turn 1, we carry so much more speed through that corner. Down the back straight here. It's absolutely insane to visualise it here, how much quicker the Sauber is. Even just in a straight line, it's lost nearly a second at this point, which is absolutely mad, really. Through the corner, obviously on the traction as well, the Sauber struggles, doesn't have quite much power either, so down this back straight, it's still struggling. There's parts of this track here, but this car is nearly uncontrollable in comparison to the Mercedes. It's just like, wow, absolutely incredible that these cars are racing together, because you feel like they should be in two different categories looking at them side by side here. And it's really the second part of that where I think it illustrates how fast the Mercedes is in comparison to the Sauber, because you've got the fast left-handers and you've got the fast right-handers as well, where the Sauber has to take different lines, otherwise it just can't make it through the corners. I was saying earlier, wasn't I, that you could take a tighter line with the Mercedes because it's just got the downforce to back it up, but with the Sauber you're having to take different lines because it really does struggle to go through the corners. I think you've got to appreciate the limits that these guys are, the limits they've got to try and find in a Sauber are probably harder to find than in the Mercedes, because, you're risking a spin at every opportunity here. So, yeah, quite a crazy little comparison there. Now we're going to look at the top speeds, cornering speeds, that sort of stuff. Should mention we are using a standard setup for this one, so we're not doing any fancy tricks to make sure that a certain car is faster in certain areas. Exactly the same setup on both cars, meaning that this should be the most fair test it can possibly be here. Of course, the only thing that will be different is my driving, and once again, it's not going to be absolutely perfect, but I think it definitely shows a better comparison than last time where we only did 1 or 2 laps. We did 10 laps, and these were the best 2 lap times we had out of each session. You might have seen that the Sauber was on like lap 18 or whatever. That's because you basically switched the cars mid-session, that's why. So we did 10 laps in the Mercedes, then switched over to the Sauber and did 10 laps as well, so we did up to 20 laps in total. So you can see here 185 there for the Sauber car. Not that much drastically different. They're only 5 miles an hour slower in a straight line, but it just took so much longer to get to that top end speed than the Mercedes car. The Mercedes accelerates through the gears so much quicker, just so much more traction, and just a better car in terms of the straight line speed. I mean, it is quite strange to see how far behind it is. Even at this stage, you can see in the top right hand corner, you got the split. Nearly 7/10 of a second down to the braking zone. I think it was nearly 8/10 of a second, nearly 9/10 of a second as we exited the corner here. So once again on board with the Mercedes at the corner apex here. This is just the corner after the top speed test here. So we're in second gear doing 49 miles an hour, which I think that's a pretty solid apex speed there. Probably we could have done a better run down the straight if we didn't clip the curb so much, because that probably threw us off a little bit here. But, you know, I would have had to spend a lot more time here to nail the perfect lap. The thing is, around Austria, there's some really weird things. If you go over certain curbs, you get track invalidated, which is weird, because I'm pretty sure in real life they would have used those curves. So 49 miles an hour for the Mercedes, and what's it for the Sauber? 42. You can see I'm trying to avoid the curves there, because I know I need to maximise that corner exit speed here with the Sauber. I could go a frame further on, and it actually went to 41 miles an hour, but I thought this is probably the closest one to what it was in the Mercedes, so I'm trying to make it as fair as possible. Of course, I'm not taking exactly the same lines with both cars, meaning that certain screenshots may look a little bit off, but it's a pretty decent comparison that's showing the corner apex speeds of the two cars. Now we're going to look at high speed cornering here with the Mercedes, 139 miles an hour. This is the penultimate left hand corner at Austria here, so you know, quite a high speed corner here. The one before was quite a high speed corner as well, but I think this is probably the quickest corner on the track. I could be wrong, but I think this is the quickest corner on the track here. So 139 miles an hour with the Mercedes car, and this is the one where it shows drastically the difference in line, because I don't think I could take this line in the Sauber because it just doesn't have the downforce. So 139 and 115 at a similar angle. It's tough because obviously we're much closer to the curb in the other one there, but 115 miles an hour for the Sauber, showing the superior downforce of the Mercedes car, and you'd say the Ferrari probably has even more downforce than that. So that'd be an interesting test, Ferrari versus Mercedes. Would you guys like to see that test? I would definitely be up for that one if you guys would be interested. So there we go, a massive difference between the two cars there. Now we're going to be doing the last corner here. This is where you're trying to get sort of, I could say it's a medium speed corner, so it's a bit of a berm as well. So that's 114 miles an hour there for the Mercedes car. And of course we're going to hit the DRS zone quite soon as well, so we'll need to get a decent run through this last corner to activate that as best as possible. So fifth gear, 114 miles an hour, and the Sauber fourth gear, 100 miles an hour. So a significant difference between the two cars there once again. So I really enjoy doing these comparisons, guys. I try to make them as fair as I possibly can. Please understand, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to me as a driver. Of course, each lap is not going to be totally comparable. Of course, little mistakes are going to go in there. Tiny things you might not even notice are going to make difference to the lap time. So once again, if you guys feel free to do this yourself, I'd definitely like to see your sort of version of this in the comment section. Post a YouTube link or just write it out as a comment what your speeds were through these certain corners. Would be very interested to see your results. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate your support recently. If you could remember to leave a like on the video, that'd be massively appreciated. And subscribe to my channel if you're new. There's the giveaway of F1 2017 going over on my career mode. If you want to go and check that out, there's a copy for you guys to win it if you weren't thinking of getting the game straight away. So that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.